Alex Morgan adjusted the worn baseball cap pulled low over his eyes as he pushed open the door. To Morgan's Diner. The familiar bell chimed above his head, but not a single employee glanced his way. Perfect. His disguise-faded jeans, an old flannel shirt, and 3 days' worth of stubble was working. For 15 years he had owned this place, building it from a struggling greasy spoon into a beloved local institution, with 4 locations across the city. Yet he rarely visited anymore, too busy with expansion plans and investor meetings. Something had been nagging at him lately, though. Customer reviews remained stellar, but employee turnover had increased, and profits at this flagship location had mysteriously dipped despite steady customer traffic. "Table for one," asked the waitress without looking up from her notepad. "Counter's fine," Alex replied, deliberately roughening his voice. He settled onto a stool at the far end of the counter where he could observe the entire operation. The lunch rush was in full swing, waitresses hurrying between tables, line cooks shouting orders, the cash register chimming steadily. Everything looked normal on the surface, yet something felt off. That's when he first noticed Oliver. The elderly dishwasher moved with a careful deliberation that contrasted sharply with the frantic pace around him. While others rushed, Oliver methodically stacked plates, his gnarled hands working with surprising precision. He was rail-thin with a shock of white hair, probably in his mid-70s, yet his eyes remained alert and observant beneath bushy eyebrows. "What can I get you?" A young cashier, her name tag read Emma, finally acknowledged Alex's presence. "Turkey club and coffee," Alex said, sliding at $20 across the counter. As Emma rang up his order, he nodded toward Oliver. "He been here long?" Emma rolled her eyes. "Forever. Should have retired years ago, if you ask me." Alex watched Oliver over the rim of his coffee cup for the next hour. The old man never stopped moving, never complained, even when a busboy carelessly dumped a tray of dishes into his station, splashing dirty water onto his already soaked apron. Alex noticed how customers greeted him by name when they passed the dish window, and how Oliver always had a kind word or smile in return. Just before the end of lunch service, Alex witnessed something curious. A young woman with 2 small children finished her meal and approached the register. As she opened her wallet, her face fell. She whispered something to Emma, who immediately frowned and called over another cashier, Lucas, according to his name tag. They spoke in hushed, annoyed tones while the young mother grew increasingly embarrassed, her children sensing her distress. Oliver, who had been wiping down the dish station, looked over. Without hesitation, he dried his hands and shuffled to the register. Alex couldn't hear what was said, but he watched as Oliver discreetly slipped some bills from his pocket to Emma. The mother's relief was visible as she gathered her children and left, thanking Oliver profusely. "That's the 3rd time this week," Lucas muttered to Emma, loud enough for Alex to hear. "Old fool's going to go broke saving strays." Emma snickered. "As if he isn't broke already. Bet he sleeps in that junker car of his." Alex's hands tightened around his coffee cup. The manager on duty, a harried-looking woman named Vanessa, Alex vaguely remembered hiring 2 years ago, walked past. Without noticing the exchange, over the next few hours, Alex observed more. Oliver stayed well past what should have been the end of his shift, meticulously cleaning areas others had neglected. Twice more, Alex saw him quietly cover for customers who came up shortens for a teenager whose card was declined, and again for an elderly man who seemed confused about prices. "Why does he do that?" Alex asked a regular seated next to him, nodding toward Oliver. The Mandarin, Alex learned, had been coming to the diner for decades. "Oliver, he's good people. Lost his wife about 5 years back. Cancer wiped out their savings. He won't take charity though. Proud man. So he works, even though his arthritis is getting worse." Ron shook his head. "Breaks my heart when I hear some of these kids talk about him. They don't make him like Oliver anymore." As the afternoon stretched on, Alex noticed Oliver wincing when he thought no one was looking, rubbing his lower back when he had to bend. Yet he never complained, never slowed down. When a young waitress dropped a full tray, it was Oliver who quickly appeared with a mop, waving away her apologies. "Don't worry about it, sweetheart," Oliver told her kindly. "Accidents happen." Lucas, passing by muttered under his breath, "Yeah." Especially round useless old men who should be in a nursing home. The waitress looked uncomfortable, but said nothing as Lucas walked away laughing. Suspicious activity. At 5 o'clock, the dinner shift employees began arriving. Oliver should have clocked out hours ago, but Alex watched him start cleaning the grease traps, a filthy job, normally assigned to the night crew. "Oliver, go home," Vanessa called out as she prepared to end her shift. "Night crew can handle that." "Just finishing up," Oliver replied. "Jake called in sick again. Don't mind staying a bit." Vanessa sighed but didn't argue. Alex had the distinct impression this was a regular occurrence. As Alex nursed his third cup of coffee, he observed Lucas and Emma huddled at the end of the counter, whispering and occasionally glancing toward Oliver. Their body language set off alarm bells in Alex's mind. Furtive looks, the smirks, the calculated way they kept checking to see if anyone was listening. Suddenly, Emma approached the register, frowned, and called Lucas over. They made a show of counting the drawer, looking increasingly concerned. Then Lucas loudly announced, "We're short again. That's the third time this week." Vanessa, who was gathering her things to leave, looked up sharply. "How much?" $42, Emma said, her voice carrying enough to draw attention from nearby tables. "Same as last Tuesday and Thursday. Before that it was $35. Alex watched Oliver straighten up from his work, a flicker of concern crossing his weathered face. With growing uneasiness, Alex realized he was witnessing the beginning of something ugly. The elderly man who had spent the day silently helping others now stood alone at his station, unaware that he was being watched not just by Alex, but by the plotting eyes of two employees who had decided he was expendable. Alex Morgan had come to his diner today looking for business insights. Instead, he'd found something far more valuable and far more disturbing. And as he studied Oliver's dignified profile against the harsh kitchen lights, he made a silent promise he would learn the full truth about what was happening in his diner, no matter how painful that truth might be. Alex returned to Morgan's diner the following day. Arriving during the mid-afternoon lull, he chose a booth near the counter where he could observe without drawing attention. Maintaining his disguise of worn clothes and a low-pulled cap, Oliver was already working, moving slightly slower than yesterday. Alex noticed him discreetly rubbing his wrist when he thought no one was watching. Emma and Lucas were also on shift, their heads bent together at the register whenever business slowed. Alex ordered coffee and pie, then used a newspaper as cover while he listened to their conversation. The diner had emptied except for a few regulars and a businessman on his laptop. Lucas leaned against the counter near Emma's register, speaking in a low voice that still carried to Alex's booth. "So anyway, I checked. An old man Oliver's been here for 7 years, Lucas said, smirking. "Can you believe that? 7 years washing dishes. Pathetic." Emma snorted. "What's pathetic is how he keeps covering for these deadbeats who can't pay their bills. Like that single mom yesterday. Come on." "Yeah, playing the hero with what? His social security pennies," Lucas laughed. "Guy probably lives off cat food to save money." Alex's knuckles whitened around his coffee cup as he fought to maintain his composure. He built this business with the vision of creating a place that felt like home for customers and employees alike. Hearing such cruelty from his own staff made his stomach turn. "I bet he lives in his car," Emma said, lowering her voice further. "Have you seen that rusty Buick he drives? Probably sleeps in the back seat." Lucas snickered. "Nah, my money's on a cardboard box behind the Walmart." "Either way," Emma continued, "he's becoming a problem." Vanessa is starting to notice the register discrepancies. Their voices dropped even lower, and Alex strained to hear. "So here's what I'm thinking," Lucas said, checking to ensure no one was listening. "We know Oliver's been slipping money into the register when customers come up short, but Vanessa doesn't know that. All she sees is that the numbers don't add up." Emma's eyes lit up with understanding. "So if we just help those numbers not add up a little more." "Exactly," Lucas nodded. "And then make sure she catches him near the register at the wrong time. She'll think he's been stealing," Emma finished, barely containing her excitement. Alex felt a cold weight settle in his chest. They weren't just mocking an elderly man, they were actively plotting to frame him. But why? Alex wanted to shout. Instead, he turned a page of his newspaper, listening for their answer. Because, Lucas explained, I've got a cousin who needs a job. Young guy, twice as fast as Grandpa over there. If Oliver's gone, I can bring him in, and we split the referral bonus. Plus, Emma added, I'm sick of watching him shuffle around like some charity case. It's depressing. And the way customers fawn all over him. Oh, Oliver, you're so kind. Oh, Oliver, you're such a saint. Makes me want to puke. Tomorrow, Lucas decided. Vanessa is doing inventory, so she'll be extra focused on the numbers. We'll make sure they don't add up and make sure Oliver is the only explanation. The pair sealed their plan with a fist bump before separating as a family entered the diner. Alex sat frozen, coffee growing cold before him, fury and disappointment warring in his chest. For the rest of the afternoon, Alex observed Oliver. The old man moved with purpose despite his obvious pain, taking extra care with each task. When a waitress dropped plates, Oliver quickly helped clean up, shielding her from the manager's irritation. When the coffee machine backed up, Oliver stayed late to fix it properly. And true to what Alex had witnessed yesterday, when a teenager's card was declined, Oliver quietly slipped Emma some cash when he thought no one was looking. Why do you let that kid slide? Alex overheard Lucas ask Oliver afterward. Oliver shrugged, his voice soft but firm. His mother lost her job last month. Boy's too proud to take charity, but I know he's hungry. Sometimes a meal makes all the difference. Lucas rolled his eyes the moment Oliver turned away, making a mocking gesture to Emma. As closing time approached, Alex paid his bill and left, but he didn't go far. Parked across the street, he waited in his sedan. When Oliver finally emerged almost an hour after his shift should have ended, Alex followed at a discreet distance. Oliver's ancient Buick coughed to life, and he drove slowly through town, past the residential neighborhoods and toward the outskirts where the diner was located. But instead of continuing on, Oliver turned onto a dirt access road behind the commercial properties. Alex followed, keeping his headlights off as he navigated the rutted path. The Buick stopped behind a cluster of trees that partially obscured the back lot of Morgan's diner. There, nearly invisible from the main road, sat a small, dilapidated trailer that had seen better days decades ago. Oliver parked and slowly made his way up 3 wooden steps that looked ready to collapse. The door stuck, requiring his shoulder to push it open. A single light bulb flickered on inside, illuminating a space so small Alex could barely fathom how anyone lived there. Sitting in the darkness, Alex felt shame wash over him. How had he never known? How had he failed to ensure his employees could afford decent housing? Alex later approached some regular customers, maintaining his disguise. That dishwasher, Oliver Watts, his story, lost his Martha 5 years ago to cancer. An elderly woman replied softly. They had to sell everything to pay the medical bills. He still sends money to the hospital every month. Does he have family? Alex asked. A daughter in Seattle. She wants him to move in with her, but he won't. Says he won't be a burden. Proud man. Too proud, if you ask me. As Alex drove home, he knew he couldn't stand by while Lucas and Emma destroyed a good man for their petty gain. By morning, he would have a plan to reveal the truth and ensure justice was served at Morgan's diner. Sleep eluded Alex that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Oliver's stooped figure climbing those rickety steps to a home barely bigger than Alex's. Walk-in closet. The contrast between his own life of comfort and Oliver's daily struggle was stark and impossible to ignore. By dawn, Alex had made numerous phone calls, setting several plans in motion. He arrived at Morgan's diner an hour before opening, watching as employees filtered in. Oliver was among the first to arrive, his ancient Buick wheezing into the back lot. Despite what must have been a poor night's sleep in that cramped trailer, the old man moved with purpose, pausing only once to rub his lower back before disappearing inside. Instead of following immediately, Alex drove to a nearby coffee shop where he'd arranged to meet Ron, the regular customer who'd spoken kindly about Oliver before. Thanks for meeting me, Alex said, maintaining his disguise. I can't stop thinking about Oliver's situation. Ron stirred his coffee slowly. Known Oliver for almost 6 years now. Started coming to the diner right after his wife passed. Martha was his whole world. High school sweethearts, married 52 years. The cancer took everything. Everything? Alex asked quietly. Everything, and then some. They had savings, a nice little house over on Maple Street. But Martha's cancer was aggressive, needed experimental treatments their insurance wouldn't cover. Oliver didn't think twice, sold the house, cashed in his retirement, even sold their car. Moved her into the best facility, got her every treatment available. Did it help? Gave them 8 more months together, Ron said, his voice rough with emotion. Oliver says those were the most precious months of his life, even though they were the hardest. After she passed, the bills kept coming. Oliver refused to declare bankruptcy, said a debt was a debt, and he'd pay every penny. So he took the dishwashing job, only place that would hire a 70-year-old with arthritis and no experience in the food industry. Alex filled in. Ron nodded. Works harder than men half his age. And the trailer? Best he could afford while still making his monthly payments to the hospital and sending something to his daughter. She doesn't know how bad it is. Oliver makes sure of that. Sends her pictures taken inside the diner. Tells her business is good. She thinks he's a manager there. Each new detail was like a physical blow to Alex. He built his business on the principle that Morgan's Diner would be different, a place where both customers and staff were treated like family. Somewhere along the way, he'd lost sight of that. There's more, Ron continued. That trailer park where he lives, it's being sold to developers. Residents have 60 days to find new places. Oliver hasn't told anyone at work yet. Alex felt sick. Where will he go? Ron shrugged helplessly. No idea. Rental prices in this town are through the roof now. His daughter's been calling more often, begging him to move to Seattle. He still refuses. Why? Alex asked. The people at the diner, Ron said simply. They're his family now. And those people he helps, says it gives him purpose. Being able to help others even when he has so little himself. After thanking Ron, Alex headed to the diner. The morning rush was in full swing, and he slipped into the same booth as yesterday. His attention fixed on the interactions playing out before him. Oliver worked steadily at the dish station, occasionally emerging to bus tables when the rush became overwhelming. Despite what must have been constant pain, his only concession to age was a slightly slower pace than the younger staff. Lucas and Emma, meanwhile, were putting their plan into motion. Alex watched as Lucas deliberately miscounted change for several customers, pocketing small amounts each time. Emma accidentally voided legitimate transactions, creating discrepancies in the register totals. Each time, they exchanged knowing looks, occasionally glancing toward Oliver with smirks that made Alex's blood boil. Around 11, a young mother with 3 small children came in, same woman Oliver had helped 2 days ago. As she approached the register to pay, Alex noticed her counting out change carefully, coming up short once again. Her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," she said quietly to Emma. "I thought I had enough. Can I leave the tip to cover the difference?" Emma's smile was saccharine. "Oh, that's not necessary. I'm sure our dishwasher will cover it again." "Oliver," she called out loudly, drawing unwanted attention. "Customer needs your charity fund." The restaurant grew uncomfortably quiet. The young mother's face burned with humiliation as her children looked up in confusion. Oliver emerged from the kitchen, quickly assessing the situation. Without hesitation or comment on Emma's cruelty, he reached into his pocket and handed the young woman enough to cover her shortfall. "Thank you," she whispered, eyes downcast. "I promise I'll pay you back next week when my check comes." "No rush, Amy," Oliver said kindly. "The kids enjoying their summer break." Just like that, he transformed an awkward moment into a friendly exchange, asking about her children's activities and congratulating her on her recent job interview. By the time Amy left, her dignity was restored. As Oliver returned to his station, Alex heard Lucas mutter to Emma, "Perfect. That's another $15 to add to our total. Vanessa is going to flip when she sees how much is missing." Alex had seen enough. He slipped outside and made a phone call, setting the final piece of his plan in place. By the time he returned, Vanessa had emerged from the office with a concerned expression. Calculator in hand. "The numbers aren't adding up," she announced. "We're short almost $100 this week alone." Lucas immediately stepped forward. "You know, I've noticed some weird activity around the registers lately." Maybe we should check the security cameras. Vanessa frowned. They've been broken for months. Owner won't approve the budget for new ones. This information was news to Alex, who made a mental note to have a serious conversation with his regional manager. Well, Emma chimed in. I did see someone hanging around the registers yesterday when I went on break. Someone who doesn't usually handle cash. Her meaningful glance toward the dish room left no doubt who she was implying. Vanessa's frown deepened. Are you suggesting Oliver is stealing? That doesn't sound like him at all. People get desperate, Lucas said with fake sympathy. Especially at his age, with no retirement. Alex watched Oliver through the kitchen window, oblivious to the accusations being leveled against him as he scraped food from plates. Before loading the industrial dishwasher, the old man's hands were red and chapped from hot water and chemicals. Yet he worked with care and precision that spoke of deep personal pride. In that moment, Alex made his decision. Tomorrow wouldn't just be about exposing Lucas and Emma's scheme. It would be about fundamentally changing how his business operated, starting with making sure employees like Oliver never had to live in conditions like that trailer again. As Alex left the diner, a cold fury had replaced his initial shock. Tomorrow there would be a reckoning, not just for two cruel cashiers but for his own failure to protect the people who made his success possible. Alex arrived at Morgan's diner early the next morning, his third day of undercover observation. Today would be different, however. Today justice would be served. He'd spent the night setting up his plan, making calls and ensuring every detail was in place. Now, dressed in the same unassuming clothes as before, he sat at his usual booth with a perfect view of both the registers and the dish room. The morning proceeded normally at first. Oliver arrived punctually as always, moving a little stiffer than the day before. Lucas and Emma came in together, whispering and sharing conspiratorial smiles. Vanessa paced between the kitchen and her office, clearly stressed about the missing money. At precisely 10:15 a.m., the bell above the door chimed. A young woman in her early 30s entered, holding the hand of a small girl about 5 years old. They were dressed simply but neatly, with the subtle signs of financial strain, slightly worn shoes, a coat with a carefully mended sleeve. This was Jessica Miller, a struggling single mother whom Alex had contacted through a local community outreach program. She wasn't acting. She really was raising her daughter alone while working 2 jobs. But she had agreed to help Alex today in exchange for a generous donation to her daughter's education fund. Jessica and her daughter Lily took a seat at a booth near the counter. Emma approached to take their order, her customer service smile firmly in place. Just a grilled cheese for my daughter and a cup of soup for me, please, Jessica said. When Jessica went to pay 20 minutes later, she opened her wallet, and her face fell in apparently genuine distress. I'm so sorry, she said to Emma, her voice low. I thought I had enough cash. My card was declined yesterday. Bank issue they're still fixing. I'm $15 short. Emma's smile turned cold. We can't just give away food, ma'am. Maybe you should count your money before ordering next time. Jessica's eyes welled with tears as her daughter looked up in confusion. Can I maybe wash dishes to make up the difference? I really don't have anywhere else to go. We have staff for that, Emma replied icily. From his position at the dish window, Oliver had been watching. Right on cue, he dried his hands and approached the register. I've got it, Emma, he said quietly, reaching for his wallet. That's really not necessary, Jessica protested, playing her part perfectly. Oliver smiled kindly. We all need help sometimes. You can pay it forward when things get better. As Oliver handed over the money to cover Jessica's shortfall, Alex saw Lucas watching from the second register, a satisfied smirk on his face. The trap was being set exactly as Alex had anticipated. Jessica thanked Oliver profusely, then left with her daughter. Less than 10 minutes later, Lucas approached Vanessa, who was reviewing receipts at the counter. Boss, Lucas said, his voice carrying just enough to draw attention. You might want to check register 1 again. I think we're short another $20 from the last count. Vanessa's expression darkened. That's impossible. I just balanced it an hour ago. Emma joined them, her face a mask of concern. Actually, I noticed something weird earlier. When that woman couldn't pay her full bill, Oliver came over right after, and I saw him near the drawer while I was helping another customer. "Are you suggesting Oliver is stealing?" Vanessa asked, echoing yesterday's conversation, but with more worry in her voice. Lucas shrugged with calculated casualness. "I'm just saying, maybe check the cameras." "Oh wait, they're broken." "Convenient, huh?" "This is serious," Vanessa said, clearly distressed. "If someone's stealing, I need to know right now. The owner's been asking questions about the numbers not adding up. Maybe do a surprise cash count," Emma suggested right now, "before anyone has a chance to adjust anything." Vanessa nodded grimly and began counting the drawer with Lucas and Emma hovering nearby. Alex could see from their expressions the moment Vanessa discovered the shortage they had engineered. $37 missing, Vanessa announced, her face pale. "That's over $100 this week alone. I have to take action." Alex watched as she straightened her shoulders and marched toward the dish room, where Oliver was working, unaware of what was about to happen. Lucas and Emma followed, barely concealing their triumphant expressions. "Oliver," Vanessa called, "can I speak with you for a moment?" The elderly man looked up, confusion crossing his face as he noticed the serious expressions of the 3 staff members. "Of course, Vanessa. Is something wrong?" "I need to ask you directly," Vanessa said, her voice strained. "The register has been coming up short all week. Today alone, we're missing nearly $40. And it happened right after you were seen near the cash drawer." Oliver's face registered shock, followed by deep hurt. "You think I'm stealing? We've seen you at the register multiple times when you have no reason to be there," Lucas added, his voice dripping with false regret. "I was helping customers who couldn't pay their full bills," Oliver explained, looking bewildered. "I was putting money in, not taking it out." Emma scoffed. "On a dishwasher's salary? How convenient." Oliver's weathered hands trembled slightly as the implications became clear. "I would never steal, not from anyone, and certainly not from this diner. This place has been my lifeline these past years." Vanessa looked torn. "Oliver, I've always trusted you, but the numbers don't lie. And with multiple witnesses saying they've seen you accessing the register inappropriately." "Multiple witnesses?" Oliver looked around in confusion. "Emma and Lucas both reported seeing you," Vanessa explained. Understanding dawned on Oliver's face, followed by a profound sadness that made Alex's chest tight. The old man didn't defend himself further, didn't accuse his co-workers of lying. He simply stood there, dignity intact despite the humiliation being heaped upon him. "I see," Oliver said quietly. "I suppose you'll be wanting my resignation." "I'm afraid I have to let you go immediately," Vanessa said, genuine regret in her voice. "Company policy for theft is clear." A hush had fallen over the diner. Customers and staff alike had stopped to watch the confrontation, many with expressions of disbelief that Oliver could be accused of such a thing. Lucas stepped forward. "I'll escort him to get his things. That won't be necessary," came a new voice. Alex stood up from his booth, but he no longer slouched or affected a rougher manner of speaking. He straightened to his full height, removed the baseball cap, and walked toward the group with the confident stride of someone used to being in charge. Vanessa's eyes widened in recognition. "Mr. Morgan, I had no idea you were." "Clearly," Alex interrupted, his voice carrying throughout the now silent diner. "There seems to be a situation here that requires the owner's immediate attention." The silence in Morgan's diner was absolute as Alex made his way toward the dish room. Silverware froze midair, conversations halted mid-sentence, and even the kitchen's usual clamor fell quiet. Every eye followed the diner's owner as he approached the group around Oliver. "Mr. Morgan," Vanessa managed, her complexion ashen, "if I'd known you were coming for an inspection." "This isn't an inspection," Alex stated, his voice carrying effortlessly through the hushed restaurant. "I've been here every day this week, observing my business from a customer's perspective." His gaze swept across the staff before settling coldly on Lucas and Emma. "And what I've witnessed has been illuminating." Lucas forced a nervous laugh. "Sir, we were just following protocol for theft incidents, as I was telling Vanessa." "Enough," Alex said, his quiet tone somehow more commanding than a shout. Lucas's mouth snapped shut instantly. Oliver stood bewildered by his dishwashing station, dripping hands still clutching a dish towel, eyes moving between Alex and the others as he tried to process this unexpected development. Alex turned to address the entire diner. For those who don't recognize me, I'm Alex Morgan. I founded this chain 15 years ago with a simple vision: treat customers like family and employees with respect. Somewhere along the way, that vision was compromised. He reached into his jacket pocket and removed a small device. Vanessa mentioned broken security cameras. Interesting, since I personally authorized new ones to days ago hidden ones with audio capability. Vanessa's eyes widened in shock. But I never received notification about. I'm aware, Alex interrupted. There are several communication breakdowns we'll address later. For now, I'd like everyone to see exactly what's been happening in my diner. With practiced ease, Alex connected the device to the television mounted in the corner. The screen flickered to life, showing crystal clear footage from yesterday. There was Lucas, clearly pocketing small bills from the register while telling a customer their total was higher than it should be. Next came Emma, voiding legitimate transactions after customers left. Then both of them huddled at the counter's end, plotting in what they thought were whispers, but came through the enhanced audio with perfect clarity. If we frame Oliver for stealing, Vanessa will have to fire him. Then I can bring in my cousin. We split the referral bonus, and no more pathetic old man bringing everyone down. Gasps rippled through the diner. Several regular customers stood up, their faces contorted with anger. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth in horror. There's more, Alex said grimly, advancing the footage. The screen now showed Oliver quietly slipping money into the register after helping customers who couldn't pay. It showed him staying hours after his shift ended, meticulously cleaning areas others neglected. It showed him defending younger staff from customer complaints, taking blame for mistakes he hadn't made. Alex paused the footage on a frame of Lucas and Emma deliberately creating the cash shortage they had just accused Oliver of. This morning's evidence was manufactured, Alex announced, his voice tight with controlled fury. The only theft occurring in this diner has been perpetrated by the very people making accusations. Lucas's face had drained of color. Mr. Morgan, there's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, Alex repeated, his voice dangerously soft. Is that what you call deliberately framing a dedicated employee? Stealing from the register? Mocking a man who's endured more hardship than you can imagine, but still shows more compassion than you've ever demonstrated? Emma began to cry, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Please, we didn't mean. You didn't mean to get caught, Alex finished for her. That's the only thing you regret. He turned to Vanessa. Did you know Oliver lives in a dilapidated trailer behind this diner? Because he's still paying off his late wife's medical bills? Did you know he skips meals so he can help customers who can't afford to pay? Did you know he's been working through excruciating arthritis pain because he refuses to be a burden on anyone? Vanessa shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. Of course not. Because the management structure I created failed him, Alex continued. I failed him. He turned to the rest of his staff and the customers. Oliver Wilson embodies everything Morgan's Diners was meant to stand for: compassion, dignity, and service. Instead of honoring that, we allowed him to be humiliated by individuals whose only concern was their own gain. Lucas made a desperate lunge for the door, but two burly regulars moved to block his path. You can't leave yet, Alex said. The police will want to speak with both of you about the theft captured on video. Emma collapsed into sobs as Lucas's face contorted with rage. You can't do this. We have rights. Yes, you do, Alex agreed coldly. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you exercise it. On cue, two police officers entered the diner. Alex had called them earlier, showing them the footage before opening hours. As Lucas and Emma were escorted out, their names and actions announced to everyone present, Alex turned to Oliver, who stood quietly observing the scene with dignified composure. Oliver, Alex said, his voice softening, I owe you an apology not just for today, but for failing to ensure you were treated with the respect you deserve. I hope you'll allow me to make amends. Oliver looked up at him with clear eyes that held no bitterness. No apology needed, Mr. Morgan. You didn't know. That's no excuse, Alex replied. But I promise you this, everyone will know now. Everyone will know exactly what kind of man Oliver Wilson is. The diner erupted in applause. Customers standing to show their support for the elderly dishwasher who had touched so many lives. with small kindnesses they'd never forgotten. As the police car carrying Lucas and Emma pulled away, their former co-workers watched in silence, a powerful lesson unfolding before their eyes. That character, not position, determines a person's true worth. The morning after the dramatic confrontation, Morgan's diner opened as usual, but the atmosphere had transformed completely. Word had spread throughout the small town about the owner's undercover visit and the shocking exposure of Lucas and Emma's scheme. Curious customers filled every booth and counter seat, but they weren't just there for the gossip. They had come to show support for Oliver. Alex arrived early, dressed in a simple button-down shirt rather than his usual business attire. He wanted to make it clear that things would be different from now on, that he wasn't just an absentee owner but a present and engaged leader. Oliver arrived precisely on time, as always, looking slightly uncomfortable with all the attention. Customers greeted him by name, offering smiles and words of encouragement. The elderly man nodded politely to each person, clearly overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. "Oliver," Alex called, gesturing toward his office. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" The diner fell quiet as Oliver made his way across the room. Everyone knew this conversation would determine his future. Inside the small office, Alex gestured for Oliver to take a seat. "I spent last night thinking about everything I've learned this week," he began. "About your situation, your character, and most importantly, about how my own business has strayed from its founding principles." Oliver sat with quiet dignity, his weathered hands folded in his lap. "Mr. Morgan, I want you to know I've always been grateful for this job. It came at a time when no one else would hire me." "That's what I want to talk about," Alex said, leaning forward. "You've been working as a dishwasher for 7 years, often doing the work of two people, staying late without complaint, and showing more dedication than employees half your age." He slid a folder across the desk. "This isn't just a thank you, Oliver. It's an acknowledgement of your value to this company." Oliver opened the folder, his eyes widening as he read the contents. "I don't understand." "It's simple," Alex explained. "Effective immediately, you're being promoted to floor manager. The position comes with a substantial salary increase, full benefits, and more reasonable hours. The physical demands will be less taxing on your health." Oliver stared at the papers in disbelief. "But I don't have management experience." Alex smiled warmly. "You have something far more valuable: integrity and compassion. You understand what Morgan's Diners should be about better than anyone. The technical aspects can be learned." Before Oliver could respond, Alex pushed a second folder forward. "There's something else. I took the liberty of speaking with your daughter in Seattle last night." Oliver looked up sharply. "You called Sarah? She doesn't know about my—" "She knows everything now," Alex said gently. "About the trailer, the medical bills, all of it. She was heartbroken that you've been struggling alone all these years." Tears welled in Oliver's eyes. "I never wanted to burden her." "She said you'd say that," Alex replied with a smile. "She also said to tell you that love isn't a burden, it's a privilege." He tapped the second folder. "Inside you'll find the deed to a small house 3 blocks from here. It's nothing fancy, but it's comfortable, close to work, and most importantly, it's yours. No rent, no mortgage. Consider it 7 years of overdue bonuses." Oliver's hands trembled as he opened the folder and saw the deed with his name on it. "Mr. Morgan, I can't accept this. It's too much." "It's not enough," Alex countered firmly. "I also made arrangements with the hospital. Your wife's remaining medical bills have been paid in full." At this, Oliver's composure finally broke. Tears streamed down his lined face as years of struggle and quiet dignity gave way to overwhelming gratitude. "Why would you do this for me?" Alex's own eyes misted over. "Because you reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that a business isn't just about profit margins and expansion. It's about people. Every day, you've been living the values I only talked about." He stood and extended his hand. "So thank you, Oliver, not just for your years of service, but for showing me how to be better as a business owner and as a human being." When they emerged from the office, the entire diner burst into applause. Vanessa stood near the counter, her eyes red from crying, but her smile genuine. The staff gathered around, eager to congratulate Oliver on his promotion. "There's one more thing," Alex announced to the crowded diner. "Starting today, Morgan's Diners is implementing a new company-wide policy. All employees will receive living wages, comprehensive benefits, and emergency assistance when needed. No one who works for this company should ever have to choose between paying bills and helping others. The customers cheered as Oliver stood beside Alex, still dazed by the turn his life had taken. Amy, the young mother Oliver had helped multiple times, stepped forward with her children. "We started a collection for you, Oliver," she said, holding out an envelope. "It's not much, but—" Alex raised his hand. "Every penny of Oliver's expenses is covered," he assured her. "But I have a better idea for those funds. Let's use them to start the Oliver Wilson Community Fund to help others facing medical bills or hard times." Oliver looked around at the faces of people he'd served quietly for years, customers whose names he knew, whose children he'd watched grow, whose struggles he'd eased in small ways whenever he could. Their smiles reflected the impact of his quiet kindness. In the weeks that followed, Oliver settled into both his new home and his new position. Though he no longer needed to work, he stayed on not from necessity but from choice. The diner had become more than a workplace site, was his community, his purpose, his family. And every day when Oliver walked through the doors of Morgan's Diner, he was greeted not as the struggling dishwasher living in a rundown trailer, but as the man whose compassion had transformed not just his own life, but an entire business and the community it served. Alex kept his promise, remaining hands-on in his business. The changes he implemented spread across all of his locations, creating a company culture where kindness was valued as highly as profit. As for Lucas and Emma, their names became cautionary tales in the industry, a reminder that character matters more than cleverness, and that true worth isn't measured by what you take, but by what you give when you think no one is watching.